name is Shawn Johnson for everybody that don't know, and I definitely appreciate it. And yeah, since I've been working since I was in prison doing the 19 years, and a lot of different things I've been doing. The prison audio, that was somebody that I was working with, right? And shout out to them because that like kind of got me into knowing how to host or do podcasts and different type of things, stuff like that. So since I've been home, I just been putting it together. I'm on my Saving Souls movement, trying to, keep the youth from going to prison, be in the gang life and everything, and just people in general, right? Just to motivate people because sometimes it takes for a person to go through something in order to share their experience and testimony for somebody else to really get it and be like, nah, I see where they're coming from. I can take advice from a person that got lived experience in this type of area.
So what led up to the situation that got you arrested?
So for me, it was like I said, being in the streets, and it was just me, my group of guys, going to war with a bunch of group of guys, and things happen. So on the day in question, somebody got shot. That led to some more shootings, and then ultimately, the day that dude unfortunately died is like it's just a situation that is unfortunate because we was kids at the time. But however, at the same time, it's like when you're in a situation where you have the option to either defend your life or not, like I'm going to choose to defend my life every time, especially being in that environment. So for me to defend myself, it just so many things happened afterwards that just made it look so different because you had a friend or two that was close by the situation that actually lined up the situation, and he took his people gun. So now when the police call and they come, it looked like he just straight got whacked and that it wasn't a self-defense situation. And then you had people along the way that had their own charges, and now they're trying to get out of their own charges. So they're like, oh no, I got information on this, I got information on this. So ultimately it just looked like it was just a wild situation when the whole time I was just defending myself. And ultimately I was in the county jail for like 22 months. And I lost trial because of that. Like a lot of people try to recant their statements, but at that point in time, it's like the jury already heard their initial statement. And I ended up losing trial in June of 2008. And then in August 2008, I got sentenced to 60 years in prison. Prison a little bit different being at Trenton State because growing up, living in Jersey, you hear about Trenton State all the time, how rough it is, how people die in there, how all of this stuff happened. So my mentality of walking in there day one was like, be prepared for anything. So I was just mentally preparing myself for anything for the first day that I walked in there. And I always say this a lot, being that I'm home talking about this. It's like when you pull up to that prison and they take you in this garage, like the lights is dim, is dark, like you really can't see nothing. Like you really can feel the tension that prison hold, like it feel like it's death in there, right? So you walking through the halls and you have all the COs standing there with their little bully sticks, and I'm sitting there walking past, and I'm like, okay, this is probably as real as everybody said it is. So my first day, I was just like being on point. Then they got to take you to quarantine, like your first 2 weeks. First week you got to be on quarantine. I ended up being on quarantine for like 2 weeks, but I wasn't in population. They had me in like a as said type of setting because there wasn't enough room. And then from there, they let me in population, and that's where my journey in there like really begun. Being in the prison I was in, everybody has a lot of time. It's literally some people that are in prison sometimes that is completely innocent. That is not a false thing. Like I know everybody be saying like, "Oh, I'm innocent. I didn't do it. I'm wrongly convicted." Right? You do have a lot of people that say that, but you do have people that are completely innocent of crimes that are actually in there. I've seen a couple of people go home because it was completely innocent. So I know that's true. But I also think the misconception is thinking that everybody that go to prison is somebody that's a bad person, because a lot of us, whether where we come from, some of us is educated, some of us know how to go about things the proper way. It's just that we grew up in the environments that we grew up in, and situations happened the way that they happened, and we found ourselves in prison. Oh yeah, it definitely was all over the news. Like I was like, even though I got my time commuted, like my case was like one of the quote unquote controversial ones. But it's like clear evidence in my joint that it was a self-defense case. But some people don't want to accept the truth. That's all it is. Not like how some prison is where it's segregated by race, right? So it's a lot of diversity there. Predominantly everybody is either black or Hispanic or whatever the case may be. So like it's diverse and people just gravitate who they gravitate to. So yeah, of course you have people that might only associate with certain people just because of where they from, based on who they might know, based on affiliations or what's that, whatever the case may be as far as the gang culture. But it's kind of like everybody just gravitate to who they're cool with or who like, so it's not like no rule like, yo, you can't be cool with that person because that person white or this person is this. Like politics happen though in prison. Things happen. You do get some people that come down that might have a case like we were just talking about, depending on who they might have killed or something like that. So now, dudes sitting there plotting on them before they even come down because you're going to know this person got however many years before they even get there. And I didn't see that happen. I didn't see a guy actually did something to two people, family member that was down there, and they knew he was coming down there, and he ended up being on the same chair that they was on, and he didn't know that. They knew exactly who he was as soon as he walked in, but he didn't know they was. So as soon as the count cleared, they popped him. They didn't see it coming. Or people that just stay to themselves, I think they're the most dangerous at times because you never know what they thinking, and they probably could have killed you like 1,000 times in their head, and you really don't even realize it. And then I didn't see that happen. I didn't literally seen a person that I know super quiet, and this is why I say this, super quiet. We was playing basketball one day, and he fouled the younger kid. The younger kid got mad after about the third time, punched him in the face in the middle of that. When he punched him in his face, dude he ain't do nothing back to him. He ain't hit the kid back or nothing. He just like, okay, cool. He went about his day after we left the gym, went about his day, right? Nothing never happened. So, in prison, the perception of that is, oh, somebody did something to you, ain't do nothing. Now he's super quiet. Yeah. But 5 months later, he's on another unit, and then somebody that was, a little bit probably more of a threat based on height, waist, and all that, said something crazy to him. And this same person that just let this little skinny kid punch him in the face and ain't paying no mind came out and stabbed the other guy straight in his eye a bunch of times. So it's like quiet people is the ones that you got to watch for the most part. One, because we was on a unit, we was all in a unit together. I think one, because he was a lot smaller and probably weighed like 70 pounds, right? And I also think like he had a liking to him that he was a likable young kid. And it was kind of one of them things like, okay, I understand you mad, cool, you got that. I really don't want to do to you what I know I can do to you out of respect of you and people that you are cool with. And I think that's what it came down to. I think respect is the ultimate thing because that can change the course of how you gel in a lot of different ways. Because if people don't respect you, then like you just said, people feel like they can say or do whatever they want to do to you or say whatever they want to say to you. So now you find yourself always being on defense that if a person is saying whatever they want to say, it come a point in time that being in prison, no matter how humble you is, if a person keeps saying things or people think that you weak or you soft, it comes a point in time, especially you doing time, you're going to feel like you got to prove a point so people can stop saying things to you or act like they could do whatever they want to do to you. So I think respect is important because it just plays a major role on how you can gel personally, and I think it goes a long way to like, okay, people respect you for who you are, how you carry yourself, your character, so they're just leave you alone and just let you be for the most part. There've been times that I was in a mess hall, everybody just chilling, just eating, and then somebody just randomly, well, not randomly, but you just see that randomly somebody just getting stabbed. And how it is in the prison I was in is like once you're in certain areas, especially the mess hall, if you get into any fight, you getting jumped, you getting stabbed, or whatever the case may be, you they will not come in and save you. They're going to tell you make it to the gate. And if you don't make it to the gate and you die in the midst of whatever's happening, then that's just what it is. Cause they not coming in to save you. But it just depends. Some crazy days, like I said, somebody getting stabbed. And as said, you get a lot of younger kids from different prisons coming. So it's been time that it had turned into, people playing basketball to being out in the yard, and as said, to people jumping people and killing them. Right. And these are people that might have had like a 2 or 3 year bid. Now they about to be in the building in Trenton because they decided to kill somebody over a basketball game. So it just depends on the mood of the prison at the time.
Months, but you locked down all the time. How what does that do to a person?
I think it affects everybody differently. Like being isolated and being in a cell, it's definitely going to affect you mentally, right? And some people, unfortunately, over time of dealing with that, you talking about 10, 15, 20 years, it start burning them out mentally where you will see a person that was perfectly fine 10, 15 years ago because you in there during the 19 years I was in prison, I chose upon myself to not only take programs that was in prison, but I also extended to take programs outside of prison. Whether that was Bible study, whether I was working with nonprofits, reentry programs, and that was throughout different states, even some in other countries. And I was just doing that consistently for my 19 years I was in prison, trying to change for me for to be better. I wrote a couple of books. I was in there. I got a certificate from Penn State when I was in there, and a couple of other places. So that part of my rehabilitation, coupled with the fact that the former governor Phil Murphy of New Jersey started a clemency project, he had lawyers actually look at our cases too, right? So they looked at our rehabilitation, they looked at whether we had any institutional charges, and you had one main one when I was there, and I was just having a cell phone. So, and that was me just getting work done. His case was really a self defense case. Like even when I first got down, the appellate division in their ruling said that it was enough evidence in my case that it was a self-defense case. Like this is their ruling that's in the law. They just didn't reverse it. So it just coupled with the fact that their lawyers seen that my case was actually a self-defense case alongside with me being rehabilitated and all the work I was doing. So they granted my clemency, and the governor himself actually videoed me when I was in prison and told me that he was commuting my sentence. He actually told me himself that he was taking the last 41 years off my sentence.
That you must have been real happy. I can only imagine that day.
Listen, that day was November 21st of last year. Trust me, I remember at 10:22 in the morning. But they called me down there because I already went through a couple of parts of the process of when he sent his team to come interview you about like everything in your petition. So I already went through that process. So once I got interviewed, I kind of knew things was happening in regards to that. And even with that, like shout out to my wife because she put in the work of putting everything together for my clemency petition to make sure I had everything. She reached out to people to make sure I had everything, put in the work to make sure the books was uploaded. So like everything that I was doing, like she contributed to that heavy, and that is the overall reason of showing her rehabilitation, the work she did. But he sat there and we across the screen, like I expected somebody from his team, but it was actually the governor himself. It was Phil Murphy. So he looked at me and I'm looking at him. In my mind, I'm sitting here like, okay, this is not normal that the governor is across from me on the screen. So he looked at me. So he like, Shawn, good morning. How are you? And I'm just like, I'm blessed. God woke me up this morning. So he said, yeah, well, I just wanted just to tell you personally, I'm about to make your day a whole lot better. I'm commuting the rest of your sentence, right? And that's 41 years. Mind you, I got 19,
It's a lot.
19 in and 41 years. So at that point, I was just grateful, and all I could do was just listen to him. And he literally just went through and just told me why. He just said, "Listen, like we've been going through your petition for some time, uh, and your rehabilitation is remarkable. Like despite the conditions you in, like your rehabilitation, it shows that." You have changed, you have impacted people in prison, you have impacted people outside of prison, and they just blessed me with commuting the last 41 years off my sentence. So that's how I'm here today. And I've been home since December 4th of last year.
Yeah, you ain't been home that long.
Nope.
Now, our goal is to try to keep people, from making the mistakes we did and ending up in a place like that. Prison's horrible. It can be a horrible place. I've seen people die in there.
Yeah.
What's the worst thing? What's some of the worst things you've seen in there? You got any? You have anything you've seen happen to other
Yeah.
people?
Yeah. I'm saying like outside of like I said, I think things happen differently in different prison, no matter the level of security of the prison. But things happen. People get stabbed. People get jumped by multiple people. People die. Right. So the same way, I didn't see people die in there. I didn't see people get stabbed in there. I didn't see people get jumped by multiple people in there. So it's like it's so many different things. I didn't see people get jumped by the police in there, right? Like a person fighting the COs and get jumped by a bunch of the COs. So it's really just things that happen in there that it's just crazy, and it definitely can alter you psychologically when you in there, right? Because like you always in
Yeah,
survival mode while you're in prison. Like your brain is literally trained to survive every second of the day while you're in prison. And what a lot of people don't understand
yeah,
is it carries over to when you get home. I don't care if you've been home 1 week or 10 years. And I get a lot of people that come across my platform to say the same thing. Like, yo, I've been home for 20 years and I still feel that way. Right. But like prison do something to you that is unexplainable unless you actually live that experience.
yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like the only thing I can describe it. Imagine like I can't even describe it really.
That's
Imagine
insane.
you in like a war zone. You know that adrenaline you getting, it never stops.
It
It never
never
stops. You always feel like at any moment
it,
something can happen.
listen, at any moment you can feel something happen, and it's like being in situation like that because you're trained to survive. You're always observing everything around you, and not saying you don't do it when you grow up in the streets, because that's how you survive in the streets. But when you couple that from the streets and then being in prison for a period of time, like your survival instincts be on a higher level, and you are very vigilant of everything. It's like you always watching who coming in and out. Like I can't sit in a restaurant after being in 19 years in prison without having my back to like a wall and I can see everybody around me. To me, I just can't do it.
Yeah. Did you ever see somebody crash out over something petty?
Oh yeah, that happens. That definitely happens. Like I didn't see people crash out over stuff that's petty. Then you get those who in there that unfortunately
He
like
fell
that's
off
like
the
three
third
stories
tier.
up. Fell off the third tier. Like high crashed out and just fell off the third tier. Almost killed himself. Almost killed himself doing that. And then you get those who, you know, in their own mind, they might have things going on in their own world and they think that everybody is plotting against them. Like you always get those who think that everybody is plotting against them and then they just go do something dumb and it just end up being bigger than what it's supposed to be. So you always gonna have people that's like that in there.
How dangerous is the rec yard?
All right, well, the rec yard is dangerous whether you're in population or you in asset there, because if you were in population and you get into any type of scuffle, even though they got it like they broken off on like little quadrants, if you get into any type of fight or anything, the police is not coming there to save you. The COs is telling you like, yo, you gotta make it to the gate, like the same way as the mess hall. Those water areas, they're not coming in there because they feel they're more outnumbered because it might just be like a little ploy to get them to open the gate so everybody can jump on them. You know, you get that happen from time to time. And I remember like early 2000s. I didn't get down there until 2008, but it's like one of the biggest stories that everybody talk about that been down there some time, like late 90s, early 2000s. Before they like kind of section it off to like four quadrants in the yard, it was just one big open wreck. And dudes was playing basketball. Dude told another dude the SMD, and because he did that, his friends told him, yo, you can't let that ride. He ended up going stab the guy and killed him over a basketball game. And the crazy thing about it is he got a reversal a week later of his case. So he would have went home,
Hey,
but because he caught a fresh body down there that's on cameras, you know, he was stuck there. But I would say it's more dangerous and as said in Trenton State because you have a lot of people from different prisons all in that one as said. And if you are on a tier up there that have majority of everybody that know each other or everybody from the same set, you gonna get jumped by like 10 people. And it ain't nothing you could do.
so is there more manipulation or violence in prison?
My experience, I would say manipulation. Like the violence is going to happen. That's going to happen. Like I said, sometimes it could be at an all time high happening constantly. But I would say manipulation because you always going to have somebody that's going to try to run game on you. And whether you see it or not, whether you pay attention or not, or even if they're not trying to run game on you per se, you just watch what people do to other people or try to run the game on COs. So I think manipulation is bigger than violence in prison.
What kind of things do they do? Like what kind of things do so if somebody did find themselves, going to prison, what kind of things would you tell them to be aware of?
I would tell somebody if you are unfortunately on your way to prison, you just have to be, observant of everything. You got to pick and choose who you're going to be friends with. That is the key right there because the same way on the streets, you could be collateral damage to a situation that might have happened 2 or 3 years before you even got there just because of who you associated with. So you got to pick and choose wisely who you going to be cool with. I would just say just watch out for everybody because not everybody is genuine in things that they say or do. Like you have people that do things and they're plotting the whole time for something in return. Like people, and because not everybody have financial means in prison, not everybody have people in the outside world. So you could be a person that have a good heart and you can be blessed, whereas you got canteen, you could have everything how you need to. You know somebody that work in the kitchen and cool, and you can see somebody that may not be in a position that you are in, and because you got a good heart, you can say, "Huh, here go a bag of chips, here go a honey bun," just because you just don't want to see that person hungry as a person, right? That person in their mind can sit there and say, "Okay, thank you" to your face, but now 2 days later, they're gonna come back and be like, "Oh man, yo, you got like 5 bags of chips, you got this," and they're gonna think that they can just manipulate you to give them whatever and give you all these sob stories of, oh, this ain't happened. And then you get the guys that want to run up canteen, oh, I owe this guy over here this, so you can help me with this. So you just got to be aware of all of that if you're a person that's going into prison. But I'll always just say, just be yourself. Like that's the one thing you can't fake, right? Being yourself. People will be trying to portray images when they do walk into prison, and then when people really see who they are, then people start doing things to them if they really feel like they really not like that. So I just say just be yourself, stay humble, and just stay out the way. Mind your business in prison. That gets you a long way. Just mind your business and focusing on you.
Yeah. There's a lot of hustles inside of prison. What's the weirdest hustle that you ever seen inside? Do-
I wouldn't say weird, but then again, it's like you said, there's so many different type of hustles. Like you want to have to hustle with somebody that know how to sew, right? That's normal. You want to have to hustle that people sell canteen. That's kind of normal. Um, I seen people, get certain jobs and like have access to like toilet papers and soaps that they pass out on the unit, and you have people hustle that. But I would say the weirdest hustle, like people selling salt packets and pepper packets to people. Like that's like one of the weirdest one I
Really?
see.
Yeah, people hustle anything to make some money, man. They ain't got nobody sending no money in, they'll do
Listen,
anything.
I see people still like the prison I was at, like they do this thing called clothing exchange. Whereas every 6 months, your white t-shirts, your white boxes, your socks, you can exchange them for free ones, right? Three and three and
Yeah,
three,
we had that too.
right? I seen people with like steal people dirty boxes and then try to sell them to somebody else just so they could like do clothing exchange.
Dang.
Like
I
it's crazy.
that's something right there. Yo, I seen it. There was almost a fight that happened, right? Somebody had went and took a shower, and you taking all your shampoo, your soap, everything to the showers, and they had left out. They washed up and left their stuff in the shower, left out, and went to back to their room for something. They came back and their soap was gone. Somebody went in there, stole their soap and like their shampoo and like their soap dish where you keep your soap at. Man,
Yeah,
they were trying to go around look for it and stuff.
yeah, that's that. No,
how,
trust me,
how
that happened.
important? Yeah, it does. How important is reputation inside?
Uh, it depends on what your reputation is for, right? Because life period, especially if you're in prison, prison is more of a closed in environment. But you're always going to have somebody that's just going to be willing to go a little bit further than you, no matter what it is in life. So I feel
Yeah,
like reputation, it just depends because if you have a reputation for being like that in whatever regards, and you're right, you might have put in the work in the streets to earn whatever you earn in whatever way. But you might come across some people that's more like that than you. And if you are bluffing to some people gonna pull your card on that. But I think this reputation, just being yourself, is the best reputation that you can give of yourself, right? Because people know exactly who you are. People know exactly what your character is. People people know all that. And I always felt like this. We all that ended up in prison have done something in the streets in whatever capacity that landed us in prison, right? If you are who you say you are, you don't have to talk about that. The streets is going to talk about it for you. So I always felt like that most people that always try to prove like, oh, I'm this, I'm this, that, I'm this, I'm like 9 times 10, you're really not that. And people that's from your area don't talk about you like that, so you're really not that. But reputation, it's just depending on anything. Like I said, I think the best reputation is being yourself, and that just goes a long way.
yeah. I mean, I agree with you. You talk a lot about positivity. How hard is it to stay positive in a place that's built to break you down?
Nah, it's hard. It definitely is hard from the sense of you have so many distractions that can happen on a daily basis. You have so many people that's miserable on a daily basis. So many people that lost hope, especially being in the maximum security prison. So you have people that gave up ever coming home. I was literally just looking at a message 2 days ago from somebody that I know. We mutually know somebody that's in the prison I was at. And he was like, hey, can you reach out to this person for me? He was like, because he sent me a message the other day saying that he tired of going to court and they keep pushing it back. So he just want to give up and just do his time. Now, mind you, his time is like 100 years, right? But this is what people are psychologically and mentally going through. And it's hard because you have all these different things and you want to stay focused. Me, I used to just block it out as much as I possibly can. And I had guys that I was like super cool with. My guys, one of my guys. and he was like one of the ones that kind of gave up hope. And he would sit there and talk to me like super solid dude, and he'd be like, "Oh man, we ain't never making it out of this prison." And I cut him off, and I'm like, "Yo, you know I love you as a brother, but talk about yourself like that, because don't put me in that boat saying I'm never making it out of this prison. I'm going to make it out of this prison because I feel like even when you put the spiritual aspect of it, you know, life or death is in the power of the tongue of how you speak. So if you constantly speaking negative, then you can't be mad when negative come. So to me, I'm more of I don't get too high, I don't get too low, but I'm always optimistic and I always strive to be positive in a situation. So I manifest it. I keep speaking it. So throughout my time, I was just constantly speaking positive over me, over my guys that's around me. And it's hard when everything else around you is happening that you look at it like, will I ever make it out of this place? But you just gotta just stick to it and just have that faith.
Yeah. What made you start doing your podcast that you started doing?
Uh,
How'd you go about starting that?
that started when we in 2000. So that probably started maybe like 4 years ago, like 22, 23.
And
One
yeah,
of my
you were
guys,
doing that while you were locked up.
yeah, while I was in prison. Yeah. One of my guys, he actually I actually did a podcast interview about my case on somebody podcast that I know, right? It's called Circle of Pen, and I did a podcast interview on it. And one of my guys did a podcast interview with Prison Audio, right? The guy who was running that. So then we connected, and I did a couple of podcasts, and then that turned into us like working together. And I started actually hosting some podcasts, and I was actually interviewing people while I was in prison. Like I interviewed some people from 60 Days In, same person we talked about earlier. That's how I knew her.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I interviewed
You
Nina.
did?
That's how I met Nina. I interviewed her for
I
my
didn't know that.
podcast. Yeah, I interviewed for her for my podcast when I was home. Her, Scarlett, Fabian, a bunch of those on 60 Days In, right? I interviewed Deontay and a couple of them from Love at the Lockup. I interviewed Joe Exotic, Tiger King. I interviewed him too when I was in there. When I was
You got
working
Joe
with,
Exotic?
yeah. So I did all of this when I was hosting the prison audio that was started. And then, you know, so that was
Hold, hold,
actually
hold on. Before you go on, how are you getting all them people while you're locked up? I don't.
well, one I had one person, I had one person reaching out, and two, I had a phone when I was in there. So I was on Instagram like reaching out to people like, yo, what's up? I'm in like,
Nonstop.
yeah. So my thing what used to be was reaching out to people that was on these shows that had like prison related content. My sell to them was this: how dope would it be that you get interviewed by somebody that's currently in prison that got a basically a life sentence? So majority of people they was looking at that like, yo, that's smart right there, right? So then that got me in, and I became friends with a lot of them. And like some of them, like I was saying, Deontay from Love at the Lockup, my guy, right? I met him 3 years ago when I interviewed him. I was in there. Me and him just linked up like 2 weeks ago out here in real time, right? So that's what started me doing a podcast, and then that's when I was working with the person with Prison Audio, and then they started doing their own thing, and I'm like, cool, salute to them, and then we stopped working together, and then by all of that happening, the clemency came through. So now when the clemency came through, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get back to what I was doing it, but then I'm just doing it under my saving souls that I was doing it. So that's why I started interviewing people and just doing it that way, and I'm just continue to push it forward now.
What's the biggest message you're trying to spread?
The biggest message I'm trying to spread is like I got different variables to it, but it's all one common theme, right? In life, we all gonna have adversities, we're all gonna have obstacles, we're gonna have setbacks, we're gonna have things that we go through. However, if we just stay locked in and continue to just take one step at a time, eventually we'll get past that adversity. And I'm saying that because in the midst of the process, we don't like it, right? We all want, let's just say, the presentation of what's happening. That's the end result of it. And I'm saying that from personal experience because for 19 years, before I knew about clemency, before I knew about anything, yeah, I had faith that I was going to be home. But I literally put the work in every day, whether it was the courses I was taking, the programs, the books I wrote, whatever the case may be. And in the moment of doing these things, I'm like, okay, I'm making progress, but it's not progress that I'm actually seeing the results of. And I'm looking at the presentation of everything that I was doing. But ultimately, it came a point in time that everything that I did for that 19 years was recognized by the governor, what ultimately led to the presentation of me being free. So I'm saying that to say that it's things that is going to give us setbacks in life. It's going to be times that we question things like, should I really do this? Or whatever it is that a person is going through, just never give up hope because it's always worth it when you make it to the other side of what you're going through. And then to piggyback off of that, I'm just using my lived experience of saying that it always can get better because some people are still in the streets, some people still want to be in that lifestyle, but it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And everybody have their own reason. So I just try to just shed light on the simple fact that I'm literally a living testimony as well as many other people that have been blessed to come home. But my blessing is kind of different from everybody else's blessing. I see people that got the blessing that they went to court because of a technicality. They got 100 years thrown off of their sentence and now they're free after however long. And shout out to them, rightfully so. That's a blessing. But mine is just a little bit different because even though the courts knew that mine was a self-defense case, they still wasn't trying to let me be free. So if it wasn't for the act of the governor freeing me, I wouldn't be here. I'd still be in prison right now. So through my lived experience, I just want to just tell people just continue to move on and to stay out the streets because it's easy to land in prison to get 100 years. It's easy. It's so easy that one decision can lead a person there. But the hardest thing is to get out because, like I said earlier, over 90% of people that get long sentences, 40, 50 years, they don't ever make it home. And that's just the truth about it. I'm just one of the fortunate ones that's blessed to have made it out of that situation.
Yeah, you gotta feel blessed. But when you finally came home, did you take some positives and some negatives? What are some positives and some negatives? Like, were you more paranoid around people? Some positives, maybe, being in prison taught you more about respect, discipline, stuff like that.
Well,
What are some of those?
I would say the positive and negative. The positive of it was is that it opened my eyes to sit here and look at a situation and say, if I don't ever give up, I can accomplish whatever I want to accomplish. Right. So for 19 years, go back to what I was saying, for 19 years, I worked on everything I possibly could. And I did it to better myself. So the positive just showed me that if I just stay persistent, no matter what I face in life, that I will be able to accomplish whatever I'm striving to accomplish, if not more, no matter how it looked like in life now that I'm home. So now that I'm home, I don't get too high, I don't get too low about anything. I'm just straight like, okay, that's life. It's real life problems, and I'm okay with that. Right? I just did 19 years off a 60-year sentence. So how can I complain about anything in life at this point? Where it's a lot of guys and women in this world that's still in that type of situation, right? I would say the negative, it just like I was talking earlier, just the mental and psychological aspect of what prison do to you. So I'm slowly getting a little bit more comfortable of being in crowded areas, but I only been home almost 6 months, and for me, it's like, especially when I first came home, I remember day two, I went to the DMV to go get my ID, and my brothers took me to a mall because they wanted to go get something. They're like, "Yo, you want something cool?" And we're in the mall, And while we're in the store and it's crowded, I'm like, yo, just let me know when y'all done. I went and sat out outside of the store on like one of the little benches in the mall by myself on the side, because it's like you're like we talk about, you're so accustomed to being in survival mode, you don't like being around a lot of crowds, because normally when you're around a lot of crowds in prison, something is going to happen. So you got to train yourself to get out of that mindset. So I would say that's just like the negative thing, but in a good way, that it sticks with you of, mentally trying to break the habits of how you used to think when you was in prison.
Yeah. Even when I came home, like for the first 4 to 6 months, I had to sleep with a weapon under my pillow. Like it was one of them things. I would lay down and I would be so paranoid. Like I'll be sitting there trying to lay down. I'd be like, it'd be like an itch. I got to get up and what if something happens?
Exactly.
But yeah,
Yeah, you start thinking about that. You start like I walk, even to this day, I walk around at night. I check the doors like 3 or 4 times, because like you want
yeah,
to
I
make
do the
sure
same thing.
you want to make sure everything is secure and locked, even if there's nothing happening, and you can change as much as you want to. It's just that you are so accustomed to that type of environment that it's crazy.
Well, hey, let you be laying down in the bed and you hear a bang outside your house. You gonna be all up in the blinds.
What? Oh, listen, that just happened to me. That just happened to me 2 days ago. I'm not even gonna lie. It happened to me 2 days ago. Uh, my wife go take out some food that she had. It was like some chicken. So she took the bones and threw them in the garbage, which is in the garage. One of the dogs happened to go out there with her, and she didn't know. So she come back in and connect the door through the laundry room. She closed the door, lock it, everything cool. She start hearing noises of the door, and then she's in the laundry room, and it looked like the door is rattling, like somebody trying to get in. In my mind, it's like, wait, did somebody just try to break it in the garage, and now they about to try to just break into the house? Like, is this what somebody about to really try to do? Right? And it was the dog the
Yeah,
whole time. Like, she opened the garage door from the other side, and it was the dog. He came out. It was him the whole time. So like, that take you right back that fast. Like,
yeah. It do. It really
yeah,
do. I had a situation a couple months ago. My girlfriend's stepson, well, my stepson, her son, I guess he got into an argument with some kids at school, and they came to our house and they drew, how can I say this, sexual things on our windshields.
yeah,
I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, they were right outside of the house. I'm getting all paranoid. I'm like, yo, I
yeah,
don't like
nah,
that stuff because the kids nowadays, and
yeah.
could have had a
They
weapon or
different.
something.
Yeah, they
Shoot me through the
different.
blinds.
Yeah, they different.
Most about the future. And what are your plans for the future?
So since I've been home, I only been home 6 months. Almost what next week it would definitely be 6 months, my 6 month mark. And like I'll be sitting there looking at that, like, I'm proud of everything I accomplished. And for the future, like I'm just gonna continue to just go along with what I've been doing. I done spoke at like 2 universities since I've been home. One that was for youth mentorship. One was for prison as far as environmental harm. I was on 2 different panels. I spoke at a stakeholders meeting for those who are re-entering societies to give advice to re-entry programs when I was in New Jersey. Since I've been out here in Texas, I spoke to a juvenile facility twice, like the young kids in there. One of the courses I actually made myself. So I'm just going to continue along that path between, motivational speaking, making presentations that way that I'll be doing on my YouTube, and as well as youth mentorship. Like those are two of the main things, as well as the prison reform of advocating and bringing awareness to that. So those are the top 3 things that I've been focused on, and I'm just going to continue with it. Already developed a nonprofit, so now I'm just striving to push everything forward. And I believe it's going to continue to just move forward and gain momentum as I go. It's just the first 6 months home, and I'm just proud of the accomplishment so far. It's going to continue to go.
Yeah. So where can people find you at if they want to learn more about your mission, or they want to hear more about what you got to say? What platforms can they find you
Yeah. Well, you can find me.
on?
I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, and I'm on YouTube. I make it easy for everybody. My handle is the same across all of my platforms. So it's Shaw John 1222. That's SHAWJOHN 1222. And that's where everybody can find me. Just don't put the N on Sean, because a lot of people do that. They put Sean and they put John. It's just Shaw John 1222, right? But that's where people can find me at. And I just post things like relevant to youth mentorship, motivational speaking, prison reform, and then I also just share my journey along with what I've been doing since I've been home. And I just appreciate the support, and majority of people that anybody that reach out to me personally on one of my platforms, I try to make it my best to respond to everybody. I'm like one of those people that if somebody messaged me, I try to make sure I respond to them, because I know what it's like that sometimes people need encouragement and in different ways. You never know what type of advice or words you might be able to give somebody from your experience that may be able to uplift somebody, right? And then you also got to think about it on the flip side of that. Some people reach out just to hear something from somebody that can inspire them. And if you are the person that choose not to respond to them, that it could affect that person negatively. Like, look, this is why I don't do this, or this is why I don't reach out to people, because nobody act like they had a time. So I literally personally try to make sure that I reach out to everybody that reach out to me, and just give them some type of inspiration.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. I try to write back to everybody too, because I feel the same way. I don't know. Maybe it's because we both got the same mindset. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Being in a place like that. But I'm gonna put all your information in the description so people can find you easier. I appreciate you coming on. You know,
Now I appreciate
telling
you
us
having
about
me.
your story and everything.
Yeah, I appreciate
Yeah,
you
it was.
having me. Listen,
I
I
can't
salute.
imagine 19 years. That's a long ass. That's double my time.
Yeah, nah, it is right, but time is time, and we all got our story, right? And look at it this way: your time that you did put you in a position to where you are now, right? Because
Yeah,
if you would have did more than the time that you did, you probably wouldn't be in the position that you're in right now. So, right, everybody's journey is
yeah,
different, and I salute you for that, because a lot of people, go through experiences, and not that they forget about what they went through, they just don't bring more awareness to it, right? So I salute everybody
yeah.
that bring awareness, and rightfully so. Everybody don't have to. Everybody is not meant
They don't have to.
to get up and run a podcast, do speak, and some people just want to just live their life after they do their time, which is
Some people don't
understandable.
even want to think about it no more. Some people just
Exactly,
try to block it
and
out.
and that's understandable. So I salute them, and more so, I salute everybody like you and everybody else that try to push the agenda further to bring the awareness in whatever way that you do in your own journey. So definitely salute to you. I'm honored that you know hit me up. So I'm glad that we got to do this, right? Because when you first hit me, I'm
Yeah,
like,
me
I was
too.
working all week, and I'm like, the other day, I'm like, damn, I ain't even hit bro back. I'm like, I gotta hit him back, because I told him I was gonna hit him after work, but I'd be tired sometime, right? But I
Uh,
salute you for I salute you what you doing, bro. Definitely proud of you for that.
oh, and everybody in the chat, I don't know if you've been typing, but we cannot see the chat at all. It's bugged out. Like, there's no chat. That's why we ain't been saying nothing in the chat. So we ain't been
Yeah,
ignoring anybody. We
yeah, that's a
can't. We can
fact.
literally can't see nothing.
Can't see
This
nothing.
whole thing's bugged out. Sorry about that. But yeah. What we can do this again sometime. Or who knows? Maybe you can
Oh,
have me on
absolutely,
your
absolutely.
YouTube video.
Yeah, nah, we
You know?
definitely can do that. We definitely get schedule that out. I think to what tomorrow, another off day, so you ain't got nothing doing tomorrow. We probably can do it tomorrow.
Yeah, we can do that.
So
Yeah, we can do
word
that.
up. So
All right. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. Thank you for coming on,
I
and
appreciate you, bro.
everybody, thank you for tuning in.
Absolutely.
And stay about them streets. Stay
Uh,
about them jailhouses.
absolutely.